John chapter 5, there was a man that had been crippled for 38 years. Every morning, his family would carry him to the pool of Bethesda. It was known for having healing waters. Once a year, when the angel troubled the water, the first person in would be healed. There were all kinds of sick people there, blind, crippled, paralyzed. They would wait eagerly every day, carefully watching the water, hoping they would be the one to be healed. One afternoon, Jesus was passing by, and he saw this man that had been there for 38 years. The scripture says this man had a deep-seated, lingering disorder. Wasn't like he had been sick for a week or had trouble for a month. This was a problem that lingered. 38 years. You can imagine his mindset. This is my lot in life. It's never going to change. Out of all the people there, Jesus came over to the man and asked, "Do you want to get well?" Seemed like an odd question. It's obvious he wanted to get well. He was at the pool. That's why he went every day. But the man answered back, "How can I get well? I don't have anyone to help me get in the water. I'm crippled. Someone always gets in ahead of me." And I don't fault the man. He was only looking at it in the natural, thinking, I've had this sickness 38 years. This problem's been with me most of my life. How can I get well now? And sometimes we see this man as negative, doubting, but the truth is he was faithful. He got up each morning. He got dressed. He had his family take him to the pool. He sat there hoping that somehow it could happen. Wasn't like he was complacent, sitting around at home complaining. He did all he knew how to do, but he couldn't get rid of this lingering disorder. How many of us are like this man? We're dealing with a lingering disorder, problem that won't go away. The anxiety, the trouble in our marriage, the addiction, the sickness. We've done our best. God knows we prayed, we stood in faith. We said we weren't going to give in to the temptation, but we weren't strong enough. We weren't complacent. We still showed up at work. We still came to church. We still volunteered. We were still good to others, all the while dealing with this lingering disorder. Maybe nobody can see it. It's the loneliness we face in the night. It's the hurt, the pain from the trauma of the past. It's those feelings of insecurity that won't go away. Jesus could have looked at the man and said, well, if you'd only had more faith, I would have healed you. If you'd only answered, yes, I want to get well. If you hadn't made excuses, if you hadn't just looked at it in the natural, I would have freed you from this sickness. But our God is full of mercy. He knows the weight of what you're carrying. He knows the struggle, the sacrifice, how you're doing your best to keep it all together while you're dealing with a lingering disorder. Child that's off course, a loveless marriage, an addiction that's controlling your life. God sees you at the pool. He sees you praising through the pain, smiling when you feel discouraged, carrying the load of others when you need to be carried. It's interesting that Jesus never addressed what the man said. He never commented on his lack of faith. He simply looked at him and said, "Rise, take up your bed and walk." Instantly, the man was healed. He got up and walked out of there, first time, 38 years. Can you imagine when his family came to pick him up, like they had done year after year? Instead, they see him running toward them. They nearly passed out. They didn't see that coming. That's what it means to be unquestionably free. No one is going to doubt the blessing of God on your life. You're not only going to see it, but other people are going to see it. One thing this story shows us is how nothing is permanent. It's never too late for God to turn it around. You may be dealing with a lingering disorder. In the natural, it could never work out. Medical reports not good. You don't have the funds. The addiction's too strong. Thoughts tell you you'll always struggle with your self-image. You're always going to feel inferior, not valuable. Don't believe those lies. Your time is coming. God has not forgotten about you. He's already headed your way. You wouldn't be hearing this if He wasn't about to put an end to that lingering disorder. That problem that's hindered you so long is about to suddenly turn around. The addiction, the financial difficulty, the relationship issue, God is about to show up and do what you never saw coming. Something that amazes you, something that catapults you to a new level of your destiny, to where you can do what you never thought you could do. This man never dreamed he'd be able to walk, play ball with his children, dance with his wife, take a stroll on the beach. That's the mercy of our God. Well, Joel, this sounds good, but I don't know if I have enough faith. I don't know if I can believe for this. Neither did this man. This shows us how good our God is. Even when we don't have the faith, even when we don't believe like we should, He still steps in and frees us, heals us, favors us. What could you become if you didn't have that lingering disorder? That little voice that's convinced you that you're not talented enough and you don't have what it takes. You've made too many mistakes. How far could you go if you didn't have that temper to hold you back? Giving in to compromise, not being able to forgive. Or maybe it's things you were born into, lack, addictions, living with guilt and shame. The good news is God is not going to leave you with that lingering disorder. It's lingered long enough. This is your year to be unquestionably free. Not better. I'm making it okay. I don't have as many issues. No, get ready for total freedom to rise, take up your bed, and walk. See, Jesus could have said to the man, I'm going to get you a better mat to lay on. I'm going to get you some more help, better friends, better transportation. But God's idea of freedom is to not make you more comfortable in dysfunction. It's to free you from the dysfunction. It's to set you on a whole new path to where you look back and say that lingering disorder is no longer lingering, it's gone. I'm free, I'm healed, I'm confident. My marriage is healthy, my children are blessed, my career is flourishing, my mind is at peace, I'm full of joy, fulfilling my purpose. Friends, life is too short to have things lingering that are holding you back. Sometimes we don't realize how restricted we are, how constrained we become. We've gotten so used to going to the pool, hanging out with other people that have lingering disorders. Misery loves company. Don't get comfortable in dysfunction. You have to stir yourself up. You have greatness in you. You were created to shine, to leave your mark, to take your family to a new level. Yes, I know there are seasons of struggling, enduring, being faithful, but that season is not supposed to last a lifetime. There's about to be a shift. Strongholds are being broken. Negative mindsets are coming down. Healing is on the way. Promotion is coming. You're not going to go through another year being confined, restricted, limited. God is doing a new thing. You're about to rise, take up your bed, and walk. Now, sometimes these lingering disorders is just underlying pressure. Always thinking something is wrong, these worries. We don't realize how much of our joy and creativity that takes. When I first started ministering, it was difficult, but God gave me the grace and the church began to grow and our media outreaches increased. TV stations started putting us on all over the country. My books were taken off. We got the Compaq Center. It was more than I could ever imagine. But despite all the growth and all the favor, deep down, there was this feeling that something could go wrong. As we gained more influence, there was more opposition. People that didn't like what we were doing. And practically every week, I'd hear so-and-so's talking about you, and this group, this minister. And I knew God was in control. I knew He was fighting our battles, but there was still this pressure, this uneasiness to where I would have to fight being worried and thinking, what if it doesn't work out? Or what if I don't know what to speak on next week? Or what if the funds don't come in? What's going to happen? 11 years went by like that, and I just learned to deal with that pressure and not give in to those thoughts. But one morning in 2010, I woke up and noticed distinctively that that pressure wasn't there. That sense of worry that something could go wrong, I didn't feel it at all. It was like this weight was lifted off of me. I felt like God said, Joel, what I have blessed, no person can curse. I have put you in this position, and I'm going to keep you in this position. I didn't know how to get rid of that pressure, but the Most High God stepped in and said, this lingering disorder is coming to an end. What I'm saying is you're going to see some of these shifts. God's going to put an end to things that are draining your joy, stealing your creativity, keeping you from walking in the fullness of the blessing. Because it's one thing to be blessed, but then to have something where you can't really enjoy the blessing. There's family trouble, an addiction, a worried mindset, regrets from the past. It may be there now, but that's not how your story ends. God knows exactly what's hindering you. He's coming down to do something about it. Deuteronomy chapter 15, there was a law that God gave Moses that said every 7th year, any Hebrew slave had to be released. If you were Hebrew and you owed a person money, but you couldn't pay, that person could take you as a slave and make you work until you paid them back. But every 7th year, if you were a part of God's chosen people, you had an advantage. You were released. No matter how much you owed, no matter how much in debt you were, in the 7th year, there was freedom. All this pain, suffering, heartache, and one day it was all gone. This shows us how God never intended for His people to be a permanent slave to anything. He had Moses write this law so they wouldn't live with a lingering disorder, a slave to death, a slave to addiction, a slave to worry. You may be dealing with some negative things now, but I believe you're coming in to one of your 7th years. A year where you're going to see God break limitations, free you from what's holding you back, lift the load of what's been burdening you down. In this 7th year, what you used to struggle with is not going to be a struggle anymore. Like God did for me. When I felt that weight suddenly lift off, God's about to lighten your load. You're going to see an anointing of ease, God breathing in your direction. That spirit of worry, insecurity, can't sleep at night, things are about to shift. There's going to be a peace, a rest, a new sense of joy. From being stressed over those children to enjoying your children. From worrying about that sickness to having great health. From struggling to get by, not having enough, to abundance, to overflow, to where you can be a blessing to others. 2003, we signed a 60-year lease with the city of Houston for this facility, the former Compaq Center. We always wanted to own the building, but the lease was the best way to acquire it at the time. But it always bothered me that in 60 years, the building would go back to the city. When I'm 120 years old, I don't want to have to go down and renegotiate. But in 2010, 7 years later, the city was running low on tax revenue and decided to sell off some of their properties. They asked if we wanted to purchase the building. I was so excited, but at the same time kind of hesitant because I didn't know what it would cost. A building like this to build new would be $500 million. We told them we were interested, but we had to see if it worked for us financially. They said they would do an appraisal and get back with us. They had to appraise the building based on the fact that we had the 60-year lease. We had already prepaid the lease, so whoever bought it wouldn't get the building for 53 years, and they wouldn't get any funds. The city came back and said, we'll sell it to you, not for $100 million, not $50 million, not $20 million. We'll sell it to you for $7 million. Today, we no longer lease the property, we own the property. But isn't it interesting, our 7th year for $7 million? Only God could orchestrate that. Where you are may look permanent, but when you come into your 7th year, God's going to do things that boggle your mind. From leasing to owning, from borrowing to lending, from sickness to health, from addiction to freedom, from opposition bigger and stronger to Red Seas parting. From lingering disorders, things that won't go away, to rising, taking up your bed and walking. Get ready for a 7th year. Not partial freedom, a little bit better, but unquestionably free.